track of the number of times you guys have asked us whether you should buy the Mahindra XUV 700 or the new Scorpio N. Now, admittedly, not too many of you have asked us whether you should buy the Thar or the Scorpio or the XUV, but we've got all three Mahindra SUVs here, and we've come to an absolutely spectacular place. This is Hanle, as remote can get. Out there in the distance on my left, that is India's highest observatory. This is also a designated dark sky space where in the night you find absolutely spectacular views of the sky. This is where astronomers come to see the Milky Way and the stars. And of course, look at the skies, look at the clouds. This is unbelievable. And you need a proper SUV to get out here. Mahindra, they make three incredibly good SUVs. But what is the SUV for you? That is what we are going to find out in this video. So before we go ahead, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with like-minded enthusiasts, stay subscribed to the Evo India channel, and if you have any comments, let us know in the section below. There's a reason why we have the Thar here. If you actually look at it, it is very different to the XUV and the Scorpio. The Thar, it is a two-door, runs on a short wheelbase platform. It is a proper hardcore 4x4 compared to the other two. But the Thar, it also marked the start of the renaissance at Mahindra. The engineering excellence that we've seen in the XUV and the Scorpio, the first time we experienced it was in the Thar. All the dynamic improvements, the powerful engines, equipment, all of that. We got our first glimpse in the Thar, and that's why the Thar is here, because it lays the benchmark, sets the perspective from which to compare the other two. Also, the Thar, I have a really soft spot for the Thar, and that's why we've been doing so many stories with the Thar here on Evo India. I'll kick off with the Thar because this is where it all started off. The new Mahindra kicked off with the 2020 Thar. Before, the Thar was always capable. In fact, the Thar was always the mainstay of the Mahindra adventure fleet. Tons of Thars coming up to Ladakh, conquering the high altitude passes. It was capable, but you could not live with it. In 2020, when this new Thar came, that's when Mahindra civilized their Thar. They completely revamped it, changed everything on the Thar. Nothing was carried over. And this new Thar was all the better for it. The ride quality was much better. The handling was much better. It felt so much more planted and safe. This is a short wheelbase ladder frame chassis, which is very capable off the road, and it doesn't shake your backbone loose when you drive it on these trails. In fact, on these trails, it really is very nice. You see a steep mountain slope, you can just climb up it. You come to places where you can see wild asses. In which other SUV can you do that? This place itself is just so beautiful. I've driven all over the world, all over the country, but Hanle has to be amongst the most beautiful places in the world. It's 15,700 odd feet out here, where while I'm talking right now, I'm running out of breath. My head is starting to hurt, and that's where talking to you about the performance of the engine is pointless really, because engines lose a lot of power at this altitude. The air is thin, oxygen is rare, so it doesn't perform like it would in Mumbai, Delhi, Pune. But that said, this can still motor along at a good enough pace. This is the diesel. There's also the petrol, as we all know. You have the manual as well as the automatic gearbox, and all variants of the Thar get four-wheel drive. Solid approach and departure angles, massive water wading, is built like a beast. We have a long-term test Thar, and we've been using it for a year and a half now. And apart from regular servicing, it hasn't required any attention whatsoever. And we've done hell of a lot with it. We've taken it up to Kashmir, to the sands. We've done massive off-roading with it. We've lived with it in Pune, and zero problems. In terms of the quality and the reliability, I really must hand it to Mahindra. These things are solid, absolutely solid. But that's the sensible side of it, which it ticks all the right boxes. But the Thar is just more than that. You look at the Thar and you go, wow. You drive it and it just feeds that passion inside you. It brings out that inner 8-year-old. The more I drive the Thar, the more I enjoy driving this. The Thar has been around for 2 years, and it does need a few updates. Chief among them, a dead pedal for the automatic gearbox, a better sound system. This hardtop, it definitely needs better sound insulation. Also, Mahindra should work on the convertible, because the fact that the convertible hasn't really sold as well as Mahindra expected is just down to the fact that there's massive amount of wind roar inside the car when you drive with the convertible top up or down. But that apart, the Thar really is sorted. It's really nice to drive, really capable both on the road and off the road. Where other manufacturers say that a 3-door will never sell, Mahindra has proved it to them that a 3-door will sell. A 3-door will sell not just to hardcore enthusiasts, but to all the fence sitters. And nobody really complains about the Thar. Everybody's bought a Thar, loves it. And the Thar was so well received that a year later, Mahindra brought in the XUV 700. And the XUV 700 was a radical overhaul. The Thar, you could say, was Mahindra doing what they do best. Their whole history, their heritage has been body on frame, rugged ladder frame chassis, really hardcore workhorses. With the XUV 700, man, this blew us away. A year after we sampled the Thar, we drove the XUV 700 for the first time, and it was like, damn, Mahindra has made this. The engineering excellence and effort that has gone into the XUV 700, even today, a year later, is staggering. The suspension at the rear, there's the 5-link suspension with the control blade and also Gen 2 FST dampers. The ride comfort on the XUV 700 is next level. On these rutted tracks, the way the XUV goes is mind-boggling. And it does have SUV genes, because even over these bad patches, the approach angles, departure angles, ground clearance, everything seems to be pretty good. It hasn't touched anywhere. The monocoque itself, the torsional rigidity is claimed to be better than the Skoda Kodiaq, which is saying something. And it all leads to an SUV that has excellent ride and handling. The dynamics of the XUV 700 are something else, and it is all made into powerful engines. You could say they have been carried over from the Thar, but in a much higher state of tune. So this is the petrol that I'm driving right now. This is not the 4x4. The 4x4, in fact, it's not 4x4. It's all-wheel drive, and the all-wheel drive is only available with the diesel. This is the petrol manual, makes 200 horsepower, and it is fast, properly fast. So it's got the power to actually push the dynamic limits of the chassis. And that is what the XUV does really well. If you want your SUV to ride and handle well, the XUV is the SUV for you. If you prioritize safety over and above everything else, the XUV is the SUV for you. This is the safest car to be designed, engineered, manufactured in India. Full 5 stars in the global NCAP crash test ratings. You really have to applaud Mahindra for focusing so strongly on safety. I also have to say that the XUV is much easier to drive in the city. It's light, it's easy. And also, if you want tons of features, again, XUV, this is the SUV for you. Massive panoramic sunroof, the Scorpio does not get that. This huge infotainment, 2 screens, but it's put in this kind of slab of digital real estate, which mimics what Mercedes does. Tons of features on it. You get really everything on this. Criticisms on the XUV 700, the steering, it is just too light. Now the petrol, it does not get the different modes. The diesel gets the different modes, zip, zap, zoom. But even in that, it just feels a bit too light. I would really like a bit more weight to the steering. Like I said, you don't get all-wheel drive with the petrol. You get it only with the diesel, and you get it only with the top-end diesel. So you really have to shell out a lot of cash if you want all-wheel drive on your XUV 700. And then this all-wheel drive is not 4x4, it is all-wheel drive. So on sand, on a little bit slippery surfaces, it will get you grip and it will pull you out of there, but it won't do hardcore off-roading. So if you're into like hardcore off-roading, you should probably be looking at the Thar or the Scorpio. The newest Mahindra SUV in the lot. If you discount the Scorpio Classic, that's not an all-new SUV. In fact, only recently, I think 3 weeks ago, I drove the Scorpio Classic, and that gets the similar technology in the dampers as this, the Scorpio N, which does improve the ride. But then when you sit in the Scorpio Classic and then you jump into the Scorpio N, the comfort on the Scorpio N is just unbelievable. This is a body-on-frame chassis, and it has no right to cushion all these bumps so well. The way it runs over these bad patches is just staggering. Nobody expected the Scorpio to ride so well. Okay, the handling has improved, and you do expect cars and SUVs to handle better with every generation. But a body on frame, a proper rugged ladder frame to ride so well is incredible. And Mahindra have not lost sight of what makes a Scorpio a Scorpio. First things first, this driving position, this king of the world driving position. You sit high up, you have a great view out from the front, from the sides, even from the rear. Everything falls to hand really well. ergonomics are perfect. And then there are the engines. Now we expected it to be halfway between the Thar and the XUV, but this gets the full fat power both on the petrol as well as the diesel. It gets the automatic gearboxes on both, and this diesel can also be optioned with 4x4, and this is 4x4. This is not all-wheel drive. So 4-wheel drive with 4 low, and it's got a whole suite of electronics. So the Thar is very capable off-road. We've seen that, we've done tons of stories around it. But the Scorpio, because of the electronics and because they are so sophisticated, it actually can do serious amount of off-roading. Only thing against it is the ground clearance and the approach and departure angles. Obviously, because this is more suited towards on-road dynamics, so it is a little lower. You still have your bumper extensions and all of that. But if you put off-road bumpers on this thing, I think it will out off-road the Thar, particularly since this has more power than the Thar. So it can muscle its way out of all the sticky situations that you could possibly find yourself in. So that's on the off-roading part of it. Then there is the daily livability. You get these really comfortable seats. You get seating for 7, or you can option captain seats in the middle row, which I definitely recommend. It really is very, very comfortable. There's a lot of space. Ease of ingress, egress. You walk in and out of the Scorpio. You don't crouch in. It's just really, really nice. There's also tons of features on this. So when you compare it to the Thar, it is loaded with features. But of course, there has to be some gap to the XUV 700, so it doesn't get all the features that the 700 gets. For instance, only a regular size sunroof, no panoramic sunroof. The infotainment screen is a little smaller. You get needles. You don't get a digital cockpit, which I personally like. But I think a lot of people complain about that. But I think it's actually good. But these are small little things. So what's the Mahindra SUV for you? Well, that is the whole premise that we started off this story with. Now, with the Thar, well, it is the coolest thing out here. Nothing else comes close to the cool factor of the Thar. It also can do a serious amount of off-roading. So if you are into hardcore off-roading, for sure. Plus, it can do your daily commute. It can be the only car in the household with a bit of impracticalities. For instance, only 3 doors. So that is there. But the Thar is a damn cool thing. As for the XUV 700, well, it rides really well. It handles really well. It is powerful. It can do a genuine 200 kilometers per hour. Plus, it is loaded with features. So the XUV is actually damn good. And compared to the XUV, the Scorpio N, okay, it rides well, but it still has that legacy body on frame jiggle. So at times you do feel that this is the body on frame. The Scorpio N does not go around corners at the same speed as the XUV. Doesn't handle as well. And also it is not as fast. It probably do 180-185 kilometers per hour in terms of top speed. But that said, the Scorpio N sort of has the best of both the Thar as well as the XUV. It can do a serious amount of off-roading, nearly as much as the Thar. The electronics, it really works amazingly well off the road. And if you put empty tires on this, it can go very far. Compared to the XUV, this has great mile munching capabilities. It can devour miles for hours and hours and hours, and you won't break into a sweat at all. So overall, I'm kind of partial to the Scorpio N. This is sort of like a 5-door Thar, except there is a 5-door Thar coming. So where is that going to fit in? Looks like Mahindra will have a problem of plenty, though everything is on massive waiting period, so they should not complain. The verdict between the XUV 700 and the Scorpio N is surprisingly clear-cut. The XUV is for those who want something that is easy to live with in the city, great ride comfort. The ride comfort is actually phenomenal on the XUV 700, very good handling, good space, tons of features inside. It is really loaded with everything. And the XUV 700 makes a really strong case for somebody that wants an all-rounder. As for the Scorpio N, over terrain like this, it feels more planted. It feels more suited to this kind of terrain, more suited to take a solid beating. Because it runs on a ladder frame chassis, it feels like it can take a hammering and it can go through anything and everything. And also, the Scorpio N has proper 4x4. Not all-wheel drive, but proper 4x4. So you can get out of sticky situations and you can go far, really far. And as for the Scorpio N's ride comfort, even though it runs a ladder frame chassis, the ride is really good. It is very planted, very stable, great on the highways, even good in terms of handling. I personally really like it. And as for the Thar, well, the Thar is for those with passion flowing through their veins. It is not a head over heart, it is a heart over head matter. It does not have that much in terms of practicality, but you look at it, you fall in love with it, you spend more time with it, you fall even more in love with it. The Thar really has its own lovely little sweet spot and it'll continue to do really well for Mahindra.